pues, raza, welcome to Chicano Highlights. I am your host, the Beto Man, and we have a very special guest with us here today, Mr. Pablo Rivera.
Rivera.
How are you doing?
Sir. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into it. You are a comedian, you know?
Simon.
All right.
Simon.
We're going to start off with your background. Who are your parents?
My parents is Ramona Sanchez, 89 years old, man. She lives with me. She's from Guadalajara, Jalisco. And then my father, he passed away when I was 10, but he was from Guerrero. And, so, yeah, that's them.
Alright,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
And brothers and sisters?
Brothers and sisters, I have 3 sisters, Adriana, Pati, y Rosa, and I'm the only boy, so I was the lucky one. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Santana, California.
All right.
Well, actually, the first part, it was Costa Mesa, and then the second part was in Santana. So, yeah, a lot of my youth there in Santana. So.
All right. Where'd you go to elementary school, middle school?
Elementary
high
school, I went to Costa Mesa.
All
I went to
right.
Costa Mesa, and then once I got into high school, then we moved to Santana. But I continued going to, because I didn't want to lose my friends. So like, andale, ma, so she was cool enough to drive me still to the Costa Mesa schools and stuff. So I got, it was the Costa Mesa Newport Beach border. So it was crazy because I got to grow up with both cultures. You know what I mean? That surf boy, white boy culture, and then the Chicano vato. It was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting growing up. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And high school, what were your hobbies?
High school hobbies. Oh man, sports, man. I was just sports, football, lifting weights, a little bit of wrestling. I was like the jock, So
All right.
yeah.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school, so I laugh because it's the first part was Newport Harbor High School for 2 years, and then I kind of wore out my welcome. And let's just say, and then I went to across town to Costa Mesa, a school called Estancia High School. And but the only thing is that the crazy thing about me is that I loved school. I really loved high school. I hear people, I hate high school. I loved school. I loved learning. I loved going to the libraries. No más que I wasn't good at it. I wasn't any good at it. Years later, we found out, there's all this ADD and all this, like, maybe that's what I had, no sé. Pero I stayed until the very end, but because I missed a lot of classes, no me gradué. I was behind on credits. And so that stayed with me it was like a monkey on my back for 40 years. Until last June of last year, I went back to school.
All right.
And I got my diploma finally.
Good sound, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, hey, you know what? I had to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've always got education never stops, no
Absolutely.
matter what age. ¿Verdad?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So then, Ed, tell me a little bit about what you did after 18, after graduating. Well, you didn't graduate high school.
Right, I know.
But what did you do meanwhile? I mean, what jobs did you have? And tell me más o menos, as quick as you can, how many jobs you've had and what you've worked in. Más o menos.
Más o menos,
Yeah.
lost count, bro. I mean, I've been janitorial, construction, a lot of construction. Learned how to set tile. I was tile setter for a while. I made Superman phones. I mean, de todo. But mainly construction, and then handyman work is what I really got into. And that's what I kind of like help support my family, to doing that. And then once I kind of knew what I wanted to do, I wanted to be like an actor and writer and all that. Me metí unas clases, I took some college courses, and then started to do that business. But although it was a very hard business, still is, especially for Chicano Mexicano. You know what I mean? That industry is extremely tough, to get into. Pero the good things now is things have changed, so now you can do it yourself, so it's all good. But that's basically in a nutshell, like what I did. You know what I mean? Just a lot of construction work y cosas así.
All right. ¿Y te casaste? Had kids?
No, man. Unfortunately, no, man. I couldn't find the crazy enough woman to have my 8 kids. So but a lot of nieces and nephews, I helped. I helped my sister out. You know what I mean? One of my sisters lived with us. She had 4 kids. Le ayudé, and so got that set, and then another set of kids So I think I've raised probably about 6 or 7 since
Órale.
they were bebitos, you know what I
Órale,
mean?
that's good.
So I can kind of say,
You pitched in.
yeah, a little bit, I'd say,
Órale, órale.
and I'm really proud of them. I'm really
All
very,
right.
very proud of them. A lot of them, they're, the licensed therapists now, teachers, they have their own businesses, you know what I mean? And so I feel like maybe I did something a little bit right.
Oh, good,
them,
good.
yeah.
So let's step back a little bit now. When you were growing up in Costa Mesa
Sí,
and
man.
then the barrio, what did you find interesting in both cultures? I mean, were you out there surfing también or no?
No, pues I was too big, man. I was too, pero sí, I hung out with a lot of my friends, and it was funny because the, the misconception with the friends that I had, the misconception was they usually be in Newport, no?
Yeah.
And so everybody, oh, Newport, wow, they're rich, and these guys weren't rich, they weren't, I knew their parents, or sometimes it was a single parent, y también estaban struggling, I mean, they lived in the area, but they lived there for a really long time. I mean, if they were to buy a house now, they wouldn't be able to buy it because, it's expensive. It's como nosotros, we moved in 2001 to a place in Riverside here in Orange Crest, and at that time, man, it was like we bought it for like 179 or something. I mean, it was 5-bedroom. Now it's like quadrupled. So when people say, "Oh, you live in Orange Crest," oh my God,
Right.
I'm like, no. I go, we bought it in 2001 when
Right.
it was cheap. Now, so, entonces I said that was the interesting part. Very, very cool, cool friends, really cool, man. A toda madre, had my back, I had their back. And then when I moved to Santana, of course, it was kind of a culture shock, because I was like, it was kind of cool, but it's scary at the same time because it's like, oh man, I'm seeing people like me, like brown faces, wow, and again, eventually, we melted in, I melted in, I got friends, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful culture, that I'm glad I was a part of too. So.
All right, you didn't get pulled into any of the memberships, como quien dice.
Mira, no, I had a jefita that was extremely strict, bro. Extremely, literally, like when the street lights came out, she would come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm at that day, and I'd be with my friend. I'm like, shh, it would be embarrassing, and sometimes I'd say nothing, and my homies were like, no, no le hagas caso, and I'm like, okay, and she'd stand on the street. Te vas a meter o te she was just,
right,
I'm like,
exactly,
I'm like, you know what? And so just to save myself the embarrassment,
Right.
and and we would get into it, Mom, what? I'm trying to be a vato, you know what I mean? And but the funny thing, and I have this in some of my comedy, is that I did try, but it's like my body rejected it. And what I mean by that is that, so I had a homie named Johnny, and he lived 2 houses down from me. Este vato, he'd comb his hair back, and he knew how to press his khakis y todo, right?
Yeah.
And I'd try to press my khaki, I'd burn them, I'm like, the creases would be all wrong, or I couldn't wear a white t-shirt to save my life. Okay, salíamos, y, man, all night he'd be dancing, talking to girls, or hyenas, right? And he would be pristine, man. Me, like the minute I get there, I get a ketchup stain or something. I tore my hair back, and the hair would come back this way. No, ponte un hairnet. So I would try to wear the hairnet. The hair would come through. So it was almost like my body rejected, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, man, I wasn't cool enough to try to be a. Like I don't know, it didn't work for me, man. I tried, pero no.
Right, exactly.
So I go, well,
Órale.
So.
All right. So, what started you on the road of being a comedian?
Pues mira, so like I said, I was a writer. I wrote a screenplay. Let me roll back. I got into. I wanted to do the acting, but since the acting world for Chicano, Mexicano, Latino, however we want to describe, it was extremely difficult, because they were, the roles that I was getting was gang member and dope dealer and this and that. Now, I have never had a problem with playing a role like that if it's written from a person that knows the life. Do you know what I'm saying? It's something authentic. But lots of times they were Anglo writers, they were white writers, gay. Man, they never been in the hood, man. It's like, well, dude, Vato's not gonna say that, It's like, so that's the problem that I had. It wasn't necessarily that I was opposed to playing a gang member. I was opposed to who was writing it. You know what I mean? You have to be authentic. And even if you're a white boy, there was a guy named Opie, and he was a white boy, but he was a vato, man. He grew up in the culture. So if it's somebody like that knows, then then it's okay. Pero entonces I decided to I read this article in the newspaper, and there was these two professors, Roy Comboy, the Chicano Roy Comboy, and a guy named Jose Cruz Gonzalez. I don't know if you've ever met these guys, but I took their class and it changed my life forever. They exposed me to more of a little bit of Chicanismo, a lot of the teatro, like Teatro Campesino and these guys. One guy was a part of the Teatro Campesino. So I started immersing myself into the teatro. So I wrote some plays with them, and then they got hired. One of them got hired at Cal State LA, so se fue, y otro at University of San Francisco. So they left, and so I decided to start my own. Entonces I ran, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I ran my theater company in Santana for about 10 years. It was called Teatro Indígena. And we would put on shows, and it was based on donations too. We didn't really charge because we wanted the community to come in. We wanted to expose, I wanted to expose young Chicanos to the theater. You know what I mean? Because lots of times, yeah, they have these really cool plays, but tickets you can't even afford. Como cuando salió Hamilton. I was very happy for no me acuerdo cómo se llama, Luis, the guy that wrote it.
Yeah.
I was very happy for him, pero hazme el favor, man, $800, $900 a ticket. Come on, man. It's just like, and I know it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Pero so that was my kind of counter. I go, you know what? I'm gonna throw some what I know, because by then I had been doing it for years, and I would bring in professionals, people that were pro and were really really good actors. Entonces that we ran, and we were for the community. Yeah, man. Very successful in that we were able to expose kids and adults and to theater, where otherwise they wouldn't have been able to be exposed. And for the artists también, I would give them roles that they wouldn't normally get, Entonces I ran that, and then I wrote a screenplay. Again, jumping ahead here, I gave it to I went to Chapman University y puse un flyer. I go, hey, anybody wants to make a film, call me. Entonces me hablaron dos vatos, un colombiano and another guy was a white boy. Byron, and Byron read it, loved the script. He was a cinematographer. He goes, hey, que my tío, he's a big producer in LA. And I'm like, okay, whatever, So he gave it to him, and then he's like, hey, he wants to meet you, and he's produced movies. And I go, well, what has he produced? He goes, oh, his name is Gary Goldstein. He produced Pretty Woman with Richard Gere, Julia Roberts. I go, come on, dude, you're blowing, man, you're blowing smoke, bro. I didn't believe him. All of a sudden I get this call, hi, this is Gary Goldstein, And I thought they were pranking me, bro. I was about to hang up, I'm like, man, who is this? No, this is Gary Goldstein. I go, no, it's not. I'm about to, he goes, this is Gary Goldstein. So by the third time he told me, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the real guy, right?
Right.
And it ended up being the real guy.
Órale.
So met him, of course, again, because they don't know the culture. In all honesty, he did help me strengthen the script. Pero there was some things that I fought on, where because this story takes place in Mexico, and it's a coming of age kid, and it's a relationship of this kid that he has with his abuelito, and the abuelito, the consejos that he gives him. And so anyways, they were trying to cut some of the stuff out and add some of their stuff, and I'm like, their little Europeanism. I'm like, no, I go, look, a Mexicano wouldn't say that.
Right.
I go, we wouldn't have, we don't have engagement parties, man, like you do. I go, we have.
Right.
So anyway, this one for 6 years, man. It was getting to all the studios, and so it fell in what's called development hell.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Entonces, yeah, it was great because they liked the script, but the problem is what people don't realize is that they like your script, but then it goes into a stack this high. And the movies that they're going to make first are, the Ang Lees, the guys that are winning Oscars. They're going to do all those films first, porque saben que van a hacer dinero. It's all about the money, right? So I finally walked, again, jumping around. I felt down. I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I went back to my handyman work and started doing handyman work. And then we bought a house again. That was in 2001. Compramos una casa aquí in Riverside. The minute I bought the house, I was with this company. Oh, I was out with this company for 10 years. The minute that I bought the house, they handed me a pink slip. Like, this company's been bought out. We're laying you off. Oh, okay, man, I just bought a house I bought it with my sister, and like, what are we gonna do now? You know what I mean? So me fui a Home Depot. So I worked there for about almost 20 years.
Wow.
Luego me lastimé.
Mm-hmm.
Me lastimé in 2020 y ya no pude trabajar, and it was, man, I was like in a wheelchair for 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, it was bad, man. It was very scary because I thought, I go, oh my God, I'm never gonna walk again. You know, you start thinking all that. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I fell into depression, anxiety. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Entonces me dijo mi carnala, why don't you start writing again? You know, why don't you start, you know, with the, because I used to write a lot of comedic stuff. You know, why don't you, you know, do comedy or stuff? And that's one thing I always wanted to do. Acting is one thing, you know, to being a character up there, but comedy is a different monster because it's no longer a character per se, it's you. Entonces, I've always done things that scare me because I think that it helps me grow. And so I go, no, sabes que lo voy a hacer. So I started contacting these open mics. Excuse me, I showed up at a couple open mics. At first just watching, and then I'm like, oh no, it's kind of scary to get up there. Pero no, me animé. This was about 3 years ago. There was a place called Shamrock in Temecula, and I went up there, and it went okay, you know. Then the next time it went a little bit better, and then the next time the guy asked me, hey man, we're having this comedy competition. Do you want to come down? I'm like, sure. I just said, yeah, me salió, yeah. But then when I got home, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I don't, you know, I'm barely starting. Y entonces ya fui, and I got third place. So I go, you know what? Okay, you know, maybe this is working. Y así empecé. Just open mics here and there. Y luego, de repente, you know, they're calling me, hey, ¿sabes qué? You want to do this show? Okay, cool. And then at the end of the show, me dan un little envelope. You know, I'm like, here you go. I'm like, well, what's this? Like, well, it's your pay. You know, and it was like, you know, $40 or $20 or $50. And I was like Nacho Libre. Have you ever saw the movie? You know, when he hands it, hey, what's this? Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, what? And so that was kind of exciting. I'm like, what? You know, they want to pay me to tell jokes? Like, what the heck, man? Yeah. What? So, y así empecé, man. And then before you know it, man, I started performing in San Diego, North Hollywood, LA, Las Vegas, you know, and yeah, that's basically in a nutshell how it kind of all evolved, you know what I mean, into me doing the comedy. So
how long you been doing comedy?
A little over 3 years.
All right.
A little over 3 years, yeah. So
okay. All right, now let me step back a little bit here.
Sure.
You know, we kind of brushed over real quick. How do you do you get an agent to become an actor, a writer? What do you do? Because there's, you know, young Chicanos out there, Chicanas,
absolutely,
that want to pursue that. How did you do it?
Absolutely. So, yeah. So what I did is one of the classes that I took was a commercial class. And in this commercial class, they basically said, oh, you know what? After the 8 classes, you get to audition for an agent. Entonces, sí, went through the classes. I auditioned for an agent. They liked me, and they signed me. You know, they're like they signed me, and then they send you out. And then
okay, but what does that mean, audition? I mean, like, are they asking for a 15-minute,
yeah,
portfolio? I mean, what are they asking?
No, entonces, based on the classes, basically what it is, no, it's not 15 minutes at all. It's very, very quick porque hay mucha gente. Entonces, lo que hacen is that, so what they'll do is like, so that was a commercial class, no? Yeah. And then they'll give you a commercial, you know, whatever it is, you know, Popeye's chicken or lo que sea, you know what I mean? Right. And you read it, and it's a few lines, and then, you know, you go up there in front of them, and then you do your, you know, they'll go, okay, you know, action, and, you know, oh yeah, Popeye's chicken, I love Popeye, or whatever it is, you know.
Right, whatever it is,
I know, I don't have food on my mind right now.
Right.
Pero entonces, entonces based on that, they're like, oh, okay, and sometimes the auditions are very quick. Sometimes they last 5 minutes, sometimes they'll last, you know, a long time, you know what I mean? And, pero for that, they basically saw, they're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, this guy, he's got something, you know what I mean? Maybe we could do something with him. And so I got lucky, you know what I mean? Sometimes a lot of luck too. The main thing I would tell young Chicanos out there is to educate themselves. I used to go to Barnes & Noble, ni compraba nada, man. I get a big old stack of books, you know what I mean? Acting and teatro and business and whatever. Y ahí los miraba, and then, you know, or you can go to libraries too.
Yeah.
But you educate yourself. I like to, like I said, I like to learn, you know. Entonces luego después, you know, it's good to get into like workshops. Some college courses offer a lot of theater workshops too, especially like the improvisation.
Right.
If you can do improv, you've got a good leg up on things. You know what I mean? Porque ya no te pones como nervioso. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so.
But this is why education is important, right?
Yes.
Even a high school education is, I mean, most people graduate with a sixth grade, level reading,
Right.
and they're still illiterate, right? Because again, in order to write something, you need at least to understand terminology and how it connects to each other,
Absolutely, absolutely. And for me, I always considered myself growing up like I had a limited vocabulary. You know what I mean? I wasn't as well spoken as like some of my friends were. I'd listen to them like, I'm like, wow, man, what word was that you used? You know what I mean? And so but I would go get a dictionary. I would go get a thesaurus, y ahí le marcaba yo, and I'm like, oh, let me see what this means. You know what I mean? If I didn't know, I wanted to know. You know what I mean? Entonces, but yeah, basically education is the main thing, and if you are fortunate enough to land an agent, you want to use a franchised agent. That means that they're official, and they're not going to charge you any money to send you out. If they're charging you money to send you out, run, okay? Right. Because they're just out for and it's so frustrating, man. I used to run into so many, or people would actually audition for some of my projects, and like, who sent you? Oh, okay, this and that, and I'm like, who? And then they would tell me, oh yeah, well if I paid them. I'm like, oh my God. I go, no, never pay them. They have to pay you. They're gonna pay you, but they take a percentage. You know what I mean? It's usually back in the day it was like 15%.
Right.
Si agarras un trabajo, pues whatever it is, but they give their 15%.
Exactly.
But that's through a franchised agency. So I always warn people about that. And yeah, education key.
All right.
Very key.
So now let's jump into comedy here.
Simon.
Now, again, you learn by watching others, of course. Everybody does.
Simon.
But your ideas, are they spontaneous? Do you write them down when they happen? Like I'm walking in my apartment and I'm thinking of something, I start busting up, to myself, right?
Right.
I was like, damn, I should be a comedian,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But until you get in front of the crowd, plus you don't know, right? Everybody's
right.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
Simon.
what do you do? I mean, it's the Roger Dangerfield, right?
Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney, yeah.
Rodney.
He would write everything down. He had a whole, thing of
Simon.
just all these little skits that he had, and he would throw them in this bucket, and then he would just come out with them one by one.
Right. Yeah. So for me, I mean, it's mostly writing. I do write the stuff, and I'm like you, man. I'll be driving and I'll see something. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta write that down. Or I usually carry a notepad with me, o si no lo pongo en el teléfono, and then for later on, porque si no se me olvida. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll be driving. I'm like, oh, what was that I thought? Man, it was super funny. And now I can't remember. Excuse me. So I'll write it down. Pero yeah, sometimes I'll write topics down, and then I'll just kind of go with it and write. And then what I'll do is just kind of work it out. Lots of times, that's what open mics are really good for. También, you go to open mic, because open mics, everybody and their mom can go. Nobody. You don't have to have a background. That's the beauty of it. You know what I mean? And like newer comedians, les digo, they're like, oh, I went to this open mic and I bombed. I'm like, so what? Everybody does, everybody, even professionals, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the nature of the beast, man. You know what I mean? Open mic is not for you to go kill. Open mic is for you to work your material and get used to the crowd and get used to being comfortable up there and having fun. Entonces a lot of the open mics that I went to were very welcoming, you know what I mean? Because it is scary. It is scary to get up there and at first, when I first started, pues sí, it's like you say a joke and then there's like, crickets. Yeah, you start thinking, you get into your head, I'm like, oh my God, I suck.
Right.
Oh my God, and now is this next one going to be good?
Right.
But I learned that you just have to push through. I used to watch professionals, like pros. Sometimes they would bomb with a joke, but you know what? They would make another joke out of the bombing of the joke, and then people would laugh, and then they push through. And I'm like, that's what you got to do, man. It's como en la vida, ¿verdad?
Right.
You're gonna run into obstacles, but what? You're gonna lay down? No, chale. You're gonna freaking get up. You're gonna keep going.
Right.
It's the same thing, And so mostly I write topics and about everything, man. I write a lot about myself. about things that I see, you know, and so that's how I do it. And sometimes I write something, pero también it depends on the crowd too. So sometimes, you know, I'll see something funny, somebody wearing a funny hairstyle or a funny hat or something, and I'll make it like, hey man, you know, what's with the hamburger hat? You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you have to keep that spontaneity as well. Entonces, but yeah, I do a lot of writing.
So the number one problem is hecklers, right? You know, and again,
I love
you know,
hecklers.
hecklers, you know, either they're drunk,
Yeah.
or they're just acting dumb,
Yeah.
or you know, they just want the attention,
Yeah.
attention
Yeah,
grabbers, right?
Yeah.
And so then, how do you deal? You know, in general, how do you deal with them?
So heckler, I love it, man. I mean, when I first starting, and I would get a heckler, I would get into my head. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Because
You suck.
yeah, or whatever, yeah,
Right.
or they yeah, you know, or sometimes they would throw, you know, I used to have this joke, anyway, so I would have this joke, and then they would throw stuff, and it would kind of throw me. This is when I first started. It would kind of throw me, and I'm like, okay, and I think the reason was because I had such a pre-recorded routine in my head, that it's like, okay, they just put a stop on the cassette tape. You know what I mean? Now I'm dating myself. Cassette tape. So that cassette tape, you know, bien viejito.
Right.
But anyways, so it would make me nervous. But then again, going to some of these other shows, talking to mentors, and watching how they handle the hecklers, I'm like, oh, you know, there's a science to it. You know what I mean? Yes, sometimes the funny thing is sometimes if they want to say something, you can, oh, hey, you know, just quiet everybody down. Okay, orale, go ahead, say what you want to say. As soon as you put them on the spot, they freeze because now all eyes are on them.
Exactly.
And they're like, okay, dude, now you think you're so funny now. Mm-hmm. So that's one way, you know what I mean? It's just like, orale, okay, you want some time? Okay, go ahead, man, you know.
Right.
Y no pueden. Y otra veces, yeah, sometimes they're drunk or whatever. But I have now, again, watching, because I learned by watching too, some of the pros and how they did it. Entonces I started doing the same thing when they throw something at, you know, it's like, you know, the day I was I had this joke. I know it's kind of bad too. And I make, como te diré, we laugh at ourselves, ¿verdad?
Right.
Entonces I would never, offend my people. I would never, you know, because I'm very, very proud, you know what I mean, of where I come from, my family, and todos. But at the same time, there's some things that happen in our culture that make us laugh, and you got to throw those out. So one of the jokes that I had was like, yeah, you know, my daughter just, you know, she celebrated her 16th birthday, and we went all, or quinceañera, I'm sorry, quinceañera, she celebrated her quinceañera, we went all out, we brought her a dress, y this and todo,
right.
We had a venue, we had the Sinaloense band, blah, 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 this and that, and she would have gone, but she couldn't find a babysitter. Entonces people start busting out, oh my God, you know, so one guy, heckler, he was drunk, man.
Yeah.
Why didn't you invite, you know? So immediately he opened himself up. I go, pues estabas en el bote, güey. It's just like, you know what, man, your vieja didn't give you bail money or what? You know, so I started, and then, so it just depends on what they say. You just have to be quick on the draw.
Right.
And then take it, and then just give it, but have fun, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not, I've seen some people say offending, you know,
exactly.
They walk off, they don't do that. You know,
yeah.
Just have fun, you know. I mean, at the bottom line, they're there to have fun. If they're extremely rude, pues lo van a sacar los securities, you know.
Yeah.
But for me, you know, me ofendo. I'm like, whatever, dude. You know, first of all, okay, here's the mic, bro. Go ahead, go.
Yeah.
Boom, ready? You got 1 minute.
Right.
Y no se quedan, they freeze.
All right.
You know.
Let's jump into the topic of really like nasty comedy, you know, vulgar, you know, because I really, it turns me on.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And a lot of comedians just like really thrive on it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I don't think, you know, there's like very intelligent comedians, right?
Yes.
Almost like philosophers, right? I would
Yes.
say like Cat Williams is one of them.
Simón.
El otro, the British guy, what's his name?
Jimmy Carr?
No, el otro, Richie, what's his name? It doesn't matter. Anyhow,
Yeah.
So there's just some of them that are really, really like philosophical in a way, you know, and then there's just some that just all nasty, just really derogatory, ugly, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, so I've been at shows where, and a lot of open mics actually too, where I'm sitting there, you wait for my turn, and somebody's up there, and they're just, and I'm like shaking my head like it. La cosa es esto, mira, I don't get offended by the words, but I do get offended because you didn't make a joke out of it. Like, it's not funny. You're just up there, oh, okay, mother effer, get this and that, just for, it's not funny.
Right.
Maybe it's funny to you,
right.
but ain't nobody laughing, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? So go back, you know what I mean? Watch your video, rewrite, and make it funny, and then you're okay. You know what I mean? Como I grew up on Richard Pryor.
Right.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
I grew up on Richard Pryor, Cheech and Chong.
Right.
Those of us, we're not saying they were schoolboys, but the way they delivered it, it was funny. You know what I mean? It was, you know what
exactly.
I mean? They were genius, ¿verdad? Entonces, but you got people that don't. They just think that, oh no, if I say a bad word or talk about, you know.
Right, exactly.
Sorry,
and you don't have to be grosero. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
No.
Because it gets to that point where it's just puro grosería.
Yeah.
All derogatory
right.
in many different aspects, and
Simon.
It's like I don't want this.
Simon.
I walk away.
Simon. It's very, very, very few the one that can say things that are kind of nasty that's funny. Like Cat Williams. He says stuff, but he's funny.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He makes me belly laugh.
Exactly.
But then there's the next guy that can say some of the stuff kind of like that Cat Williams might say, but it's not funny, it's derogatory, it's offensive.
Exactly, yeah.
And it turns you off.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
It's a turn off, you know what I mean?
All right. So now let's jump into the next section, which is how do you deal with an Anglo crowd, a Chicano crowd, a black crowd, right? And, most of these comedy clubs, they're all mixed. Everybody's mixed.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people of every color.
Yeah.
And depending if you're traveling, you go to Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's going to be more white folk than there is going to be Chicanos, right? So how do you do you develop very specific platforms for these people, or do you keep it all Chicano?
No. You no. You definitely don't keep it all Chicano, because if you keep it all Chicano, you know what I mean, you're performing to a conservative crowd.
Right.
They're just gonna look at you
exactly.
like, we're gonna jump him when he gets to the car.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I don't ball like that. I don't have security, man. So yeah. Entonces, no. You have to. There's a saying that says, "Read the room." Entonces when you get there, like when I get there, like again, I have my jokes, I have them pre-written, but sometimes what I do is sometimes I'll, like, let's say I have like, A through Z jokes, but cuando llego, I'm like, oh wait, the crowd is a little bit older. They're not going to get some of the jokes, you know what I mean? So what I do is I kind of like, and so I'll eliminate some of the ones here, and then I'll kind of like reshuffle, and then I'll do the routine that way. Entonces, I'm glad you asked that. There was a perfect example. So in North Hollywood, I did this. I did a show, place called Comedy Chateau, ¿verdad? Entonces, it's the Comedy Chateau, very diverse crowd, you know what I mean, and liberal, you got black, white, Latino, Asian, you know what I mean, and so. I was killing it, man. I'm not being arrogant. It was just I was blessed to have a great night, right?
Exactly.
It was a fun room. People were belly laughing. Excuse me. People were belly laughing, and I was like, oh man, this worked. So the next week I went to San Diego. Same exact routine, okay? And this was at a place called the Madhouse. Entonces, same routine, crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets. I'm like, okay. So I kept pushing through, a couple of laughs, and then another one, crickets. Man, it was like I could consider it a bomb, and I'm like, damn. But I'm like,
right.
The difference is that crowd was a young white college crowd, and so, and again, I took it as a learning opportunity.
Right.
Entonces, the next time. Again, I adjust the jokes to match sometimes what the crowd is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if it's an older crowd, okay, I'm gonna stick with some of the older jokes. You know what I mean? Is the younger crowd, some of the younger crowd. If it's African American, we'll throw in some, some Soul Brother jokes, whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Entonces, to try to make it work, just because. you know, you want everybody to have fun. You want everybody
Right.
to have a good time. You know what I
Right.
mean? Entonces, yeah, you have to adjust. You have to learn. There is a science to it. So
Okay, and so then the next step, of course, is politics. You know, do you touch politics? You know, with the
Yeah.
diversity of people, and you know the breaking heads, right,
Simón.
of the Democrats and Republicans
Simón.
within a club.
Simón.
I mean, you're asking for trouble, right? So
Simón.
do you delicately walk that, or do you hit it head on?
No, mira, entonces, so for me personally, I don't necessarily like doing political jokes. Why? Because when somebody goes to a comedy club or they go to hear comedy, they don't want you to bring CNN or Fox News or whatever the hell they listen to, right?
Right.
Entonces, my feeling is that I'm trying to give them a release for just a few minutes, you know, an hour, whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Entonces, I try to stay away from it. Now, I've done some shows where, cuando mataron al Charlie Kirk, no?
Right.
And so there was this kid, funny kid. Entonces, I won't say his name.
Right.
But anyways, I was doing
Yeah.
a show with him.
Yeah.
And so he came out and he started doing all these Charlie Kirk jokes.
Right.
Well, again, he didn't read the room.
Right.
The room was conservative.
Right.
People that liked him. So man, it was like silent.
Right,
And this
right.
guy's a funny guy, man. He's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Mira, and I was like, man. And I wish I would have known that he was going to do that, porque le hubiera dicho, ¿sabes qué? Stay away from that. Say something else, porque this crowd is going to freaking turn on you. You know what I mean? Entonces, yeah, he came out todo like, man, like he got beat up, man. He's like, man, I go, and then we talked afterwards. I go, bro, read the room, man. Read the room, man. Entonces, so I try to stay away. Now, with that said, I am very aware of what's going on in our community, you know, especially right now, you know, and how we're basically under attack, you know what I mean? So I don't shy away from mentioning things, you know what I mean? I'll throw in little tidbits here and there. It's more like I use it kind of like in a subversive type of way, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it brings people together. I don't hit anybody over the head with a brick. Como one of my jokes that I say is I said, yeah, you know what, I go, first the minute I hit on stage, I go, you know, hey man, thank you, you know, for inviting me. I go, I just want to let you know that I'm Mexican, and what that means is it was a mission just to get here. And so people get it, like, mission.
Right.
Oh, this guy had to, you know,
Yeah.
and people start laughing, right?
Right.
Entonces, I'll throw that in there. There's another joke that I throw too, and I said, hey, I go, you know what, they can keep trying to deport us. I go, they've been trying to this for, I don't know, 50, 60 years. It doesn't work. I go, okay. I go, because why? You know, they deport you on Friday, but you're back by Monday.
Right.
And people laugh, you know, and I
Right.
said, yeah, I go, don't even trip, man. I go, we got you, homie. We'll get you back, right?
Yeah.
But then I say, you know, but if you do get caught by an ICE agent, look them straight in the eye and say, Wagwan General, Kingston, me dep. Tell them you're from Jamaica. Take that trip you've always wanted. And people die, man. So, again, I immerse a little bit of the political, but I try to make it funny, tú sabes?
Right.
Entonces, that way, how should I say it? It's not that, I don't want to say I don't care if I offend people, but you know what? I throw it out there, and I throw it in a way where it makes them think. And yeah, you know what I mean? I can get my pot shot in there without, you know.
Approach.
It's the approach. Ándale, it's the approach.
Exactly.
Pero hay unos que no. It's like the dirty word or the dirty comics también. It's the same thing.
Right.
You got to be really, really, really good if you're going to tell political jokes.
Right.
Si no, stay away, because man, I've seen people that just die up there, man. They're just, people get turned off. They don't want to hear it, you know. Entonces, yeah, so that's
exactly.
That's it, yeah.
Exactly. So you've gone to a lot of clubs. What's the wildest night? You know, chingazos. You know, everybody drunk off their butt. What's the worst?
You know what? I wouldn't say chingazos, man, but there's a place here in Riverside. It's called Uriel Brewery, and they have an open mic every other Friday, and it's run by a guy named Patrick. Cool guy. This guy's cool, man. He's freaking the coolest. Y entonces, but it's a brewery. So when people go to a brewery, they don't go to hear comedy, they go to drink, right? Entonces, but here's the beauty of it, and I encourage anybody that's trying to get into comedy to do these places, all right? Because sometimes people say, "Oh no, people are too rowdy. They're gonna get." No, you want that. You want to be able to experience that because it's kind of like me dijo un amigo one time. He goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "It's like." He goes, when you do a show like that with people drunk and yelling stuff, he goes, it's like Navy SEAL training for comedy, right? If you can get through that, ¿sabes qué? You're going to get through anything. And so this Uriel Brewery one time, yeah, I can't remember specifically, but I was telling Joe, pero unos pedos, it was a couple, there were pedos, but they weren't.
That means drunk. That means drunk.
Yeah, drunk, I'm sorry. Yeah, and so, but they weren't rude, but they were loud. And so then you just, at some point, okay, let me drop my routine and let me go to them. And I was just going, and then we had fun. And it's just, I try to make it fun. You know what I mean? Exactly. I always, no matter what, I try to turn it around and try to make it fun. But that was probably the craziest. You know what I mean? No chingazos yet. So thank God. Yeah.
All right.
Thank God.
All right, so what would you tell, to wrap it up, what would you tell young Chicanos about comedy, even women, of course, you know, everybody,
absolutely.
Todo el pueblo, ¿verdad?
Especially women, yeah.
Well, how is the state of women in comedy?
Pues mira, a lot of the open mics, it's mainly male-dominated, you know what I mean? And so I do have a lot of comedian friends that are female, and I tell them, hey, man, go to these mics and stuff, and tell other girls to go to mics too, because you know what, girls are funny too, right? Entonces I try to encourage that. But yeah, I mean, I would just say, man, if you want to do comedy, check the open mics in the area. Like I say, Uriel Brewery is a good one. Aquí, it's on off of Chicago. They do another one at a place called Riverside Packing House. It's otro brewery. They're all the breweries. They do one, I think, like every 2 weeks they'll do one there. They start to do the open mics, read books, comedy books, you know, basically no matter what it is, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever, comedian, you have to educate yourself. I believe, you know what I mean? And then after you get, you know, all those rules and stuff, well, then you make it your own, you know. You have to have your own unique voice. Entonces, but education first. Stay in school, más que nada. And then you can do comedy on the side. But yeah, man, you know.
And what about copywriting? Like, you know, I've heard some comedians have stolen jokes from other comedians.
Yes. That's definitely a no-no in the industry. And, you know, there's couple of famous ones that they still get work. I don't know how they work, pero le han robado otros.
Right.
I don't know. That's why usually.
Did you copy yours? Did you copyright or
no?
What
I don't. No, I didn't copy my. Well, I mean the scripts, yeah. See, I register them with the Writers Guild of America.
Right, of course.
Entonces, yeah, I register there para que, you know.
Yeah, that's the scripts, but we're talking about comedy.
No, the comedy, no. I haven't done that yet just because, no, I mean, I don't know. I just haven't done it yet, you know what I mean?
Okay, all right.
I haven't reached, like, Netflix status yet, you know
right,
what I mean? Yet.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's one of the goals. But yeah, man, I try to be careful, too, and that's why sometimes I don't watch a lot of comedy myself. I don't watch a lot of comedians porque I don't want to like hear it. Oh my God, that's funny. And then 6 months down the line, oh my God, I think of something funny, and it was somebody else's, right?
Right.
Me asusto, you know
right.
That's kind of scary.
Right.
Pero yeah, it's frowned upon in the industry. It happens, pero you know, I don't worry too much about it.
All right. That's going to do it. Any last comments? Anything else?
No, man. Hey, you know what? It was an honor to meet you. We met at the powwow, right? We met at the powwow. Yeah,
in,
so that
Beaumont,
was yes.
Yeah.
And but it was a great honor.
But you've been listening for a long time.
Absolutely.
So
no. Of course. Oh my God. Since I was in Santana.
Órale, really?
Since I was in Santana. That's why it's a great honor, man, to meet you. To be even here, man. And my nephew too. He's been listening to you forever, man. Ruben, you know, we call him Gordo. You know what I mean? And so yeah, so it was a great honor, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do too for the community, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, what you've done for Chicanos and the youth and adults and everybody, man. It's really important, man. And so thank you so much for that, man.
Yeah.
You know. Like I said, I'll repeat it again in the great words of Chuck D, man. Most of my heroes don't appear on no stamp.
Órale,
So
órale. You know, one last thing, you know, names, right? Nicknames. Gordo could be really flaco, right?
right, yep.
Right?
He is. He's thin. He's thin and in shape. Yeah.
We had a homie, you know, his brazo was like a hook, right?
Yeah.
We called him Gancho. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's the most hilarious thing, you know?
Isn't that that cultura, right?
Right.
Right. That's what we do, man. We look for like, man, what is this weakness? Okay, I'm gonna call him that. Hey, you know, ojon.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, with his big eye, you know, or
Right.
something. That's what we do. But it's okay, man. It's all in good taste and all in love. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
and a lot of love.
A lot of love, brother.
All right, that's going to do it for us, Raza. We want to thank all of you for tuning in to KUCR 88.3 FM. Remember to tune in to Radio Aslan KUCR 88.3 FM every Friday night from 6 p.m. all the way through 7 a.m. Saturday mornings on KUCR.org. Ahí te guacho. Hasta la próxima. ¿Qué hubo?